Yo, what is good? I know some of you probably don't recognize the background, and that is because at the moment I'm doing a bit of traveling. I'm in Bali to help me so that I can eat and pay my bills. So you can like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. That will be very helpful to me. So yeah, man, this video is about something that I think is a lot of people aren't considering when it comes to like who to be upset about in football, or like who to be upset at. And I think, well, this one's gonna be specifically based on Liverpool, but I think a lot of the time fans have misplaced anger or misplaced disappointment or misplaced blame. And don't get me wrong, I'm one of the first ones to be on the Liverpool hate train, but I do think Arne Slot is one of the guys that is kind of being set up at the moment. And like I'll go into a bit of like why I think that and what my point is based around. So I just want to go into one, like, so the window they've had here is like a lot of people on paper looked at it and thought, oh, that's a really good window. But I just want to break down kind of what they've brought in and what they've let go, because I think a lot of people looked at it just in regards to how much they had spent and I guess the names that they had brought in. Like they brought in some really big names. So let's not pretend that it's not the worst window in the world. However, with the context I'm going to add to it, I think maybe you can see a different perspective. So let's look at the incomings. Isak, Ekatike, which is two strikers. Wirtz, which is a 10. Frimpong, who's basically a right wing back in a back five. Kerkez, again, attacking left back. And then the young Italian centre back. And then they bought 3 goalies, which I think brings the tally to around 3, 6, 9. I think it's about 9 players they brought in. 9 players they brought in, I think it was. 9 first-team players. They also brought in a young guy, the Rio Negoma guy and the Trey guy. But I think they're both from the academy. So I think we're going to exclude those. So I think they brought in 9 players. So 3 goalies, a centre-back, a left-back, a right-back, a 10, and 2 strikers. And let's look at what they lost. So they lost the right-back in Trent. They replaced him with Frimpong. Very different players. Jota, who's like I guess could play false 9 on the left, who they haven't replaced. Then Diaz, again, another player that can play. They played him a bit in the false 9, and then also he can play on the left. Another player they haven't replaced. Nunez, which is a very industrious striker, pretty shit at finishing chances, but again, a creator of chaos. I don't think he played the most games last year, but yeah. They've lost Samikas, which is, a left back. And then they've bought Kerkez. They've lost Harley Elliott. So there's some signings that I'm going to name from here that a lot of people will look at and say, oh, they weren't good enough, blah, 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 blah. But they've lost Harvey Elliott, Ben Doak, Ezri Konsa, Tyler Morton, and Nathaniel Phillips. Now, here is where I say those sales are important, because you heard Arne Slot talking about when I want to rest my first team players, my squad is basically a squad full of kids. And that is because they've gotten rid of pretty much every single rotational and bench option they have, bar like a few players. So their squad is now small, then it's the academy. Because you've lost players like Harvey Elliott, who, again, a very good rotation option because he can play a lot of positions. And I think people will get onto players because they're not good enough to start. But in a squad full of 24 people, which is your squad, they can't all be good enough to start, because there's at least 11 players have to start. And then you might have maybe 5 of them challenging. The rest of them can't. They're not going to be as good as the 11, otherwise they would be starting. So like by just showing numbers, that not everyone's going to be good enough to start. So I think that is one of the main things, is that they don't have the options. With Salah, if they don't want to play Salah, they've either got to play Chiesa there, he's not a natural right-sider. Or they've got, like the other day they played Frimpong there. Again, like, he's not a right-winger. So you've got a lot of people that you've got rid of. And then let's go through them one by one. So Trent, you've replaced somebody whose deliveries are low-key unmatched. So you're talking about someone that can put the ball pretty much wherever he wants. You've replaced him with a guy that bombs up and down. Cool. Again, very different profile of player. Jota, again, a workhorse. Someone that is going to make a lot of off the ball work, whether in their possession and in the possession. This is someone that makes a lot of runs, is a big headache. Like when we used to play against Jota, like he just never stopped moving. It was very irritating. you have not replaced that movement. You have not replaced that off the ball work rate. You've gone the forward players you bought is Wirtz, who he don't get me wrong, like his stats say he runs a lot, but it's not the type of runs that Jota is making. He wants the ball to feet and he wants to create for other people. Then you got Ekitike and Isak. These are not people that are going to make. They're not Haaland. They're not going to make 10 runs and be okay with not receiving the ball. They're not those type of players. Whereas Jota is, Diaz is. So you've lost these two players that can also play on the left and in the 9, who cause a lot of havoc with just constantly moving. It's a lot of chaos they're creating. You've then replaced them with 3 luxury players who arguably want the ball and demand the ball. And not that it's not rightly so. It's not that those players aren't good enough, but you can't have them all in the same team. And that's been proven throughout most 95% of the time. That's just not going to work. And then you've gone and got rid of Núñez, who again, in terms of burying chances and on the ball, like when the ball's at his feet, it's not great. But off the ball, he creates a lot of chaos, a lot of havoc. You've gotten rid of 3 players that create a lot of havoc in that forward line, and then you've replaced them with a 10 who last year when you won the league, you had Szoboszlai in there, who didn't create the things a traditional 10 would, but there is no traditional 10 anymore. So you going to buy a traditional 10 in Wirtz for the Premier League doesn't make sense, because how many traditional 10s are doing well at the moment? Like, that position is dying, and everyone knows it's dying, but you've gone and bought one, and then you've gone and bought Ekitike and Isak. That means the top end of your spine, it's a completely different change. And then in regards to like Salah not performing anymore, he's now having to work with a completely different profile of player. Going from Núñez and Diaz to Wirtz, Ekitike or Isak is a very, very big change, especially and Gakpo, for example. Those are completely different profiles of players. And it's not like Gakpo didn't work last year. This year, it just doesn't seem to be. So for me, I would say for Salah, he's probably having to deal with, one, a lot more attention, because now Isak's not going to be doing an unbelievable amount of movement. Like, he's not going to make 10 runs for Salah to pick one. Ekitike is not going to do that. Wirtz is not going to do that. Wirtz is not going to be continuously bombing past the back 4. Neither is Ekitike and neither is Isak. Don't get me wrong, these are players of quality, but they're different profiles. And it's not about whether they're better or not, because they are better. But in terms of what is easier to play with, sometimes it's the person that's just going to constantly make those unselfish runs and unselfish movements to allow players like Salah to have that space to deliver that level of performance. Like, it's very, very difficult to go from people that are just going to constantly run for you and be okay with you taking all the shine, to people that have come in and said, well, I need to make a name for myself as well. Give me the ball to my feet and I'll give it to you. You run. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of... What I would say is they've replaced a lot of players with a lot of quality. Like, they've gone up in terms of individual quality, but they've gone down in regards to balance. And in regards to balance as well, you've then got rid of all your rotational options, so that you can't rest. Not again. I'm not saying these players are top players that, like, oh my god, you can't get rid of them, but you need rotational options. People will get onto like people like Trossard. You'll get onto people like, even like when we had El Neni, people get onto these players. You need these players in your squad. Your Norgards, you need them, because you need... Zubimendi can't play every minute of every game. You need to put Norgard in. You need to put Trossard in. You need to put Calafiori and Miles. Like, you need other options. You need Ben White. You need these players so that one, you have a different profile option, as well as you're not running these people into the ground. And Arsenal have had that problem up front a lot, and I think that's something we've tried to solve this year. I think they didn't have that problem last year because they had so much options, and now they have none. And I think it's come back to bite them in the arse, because now Salah isn't performing in the lineup. You have to keep playing him, whether you like it or not, because who else are you going to play there? On the Gakpo, who else are you going to play there? Are you going to play Ekitike there? And then now you've got a problem where you've got 300 million two players that are going to be very difficult to make up for. You're going to have to change everything, because Isak is not going to do the same thing for Salah that everyone else did. So it's very... Again, I just think they've had a very bad balanced window, again, in hindsight, like, because off the ball runs, and then also when they haven't got the ball, like getting the ball back, like that, they've replaced it with a lot of luxury players, and they don't have the players to carry it. And then also, when you think about the midfield of McAllister, Wirtz and Gravenberch, that's probably one of the softest top side midfields there is, if not the softest. So again, now you've gotten softer because now you have, what do you do with Szoboszlai? You try to play him right back, didn't work. He has to go back in the 10. So now basically your issue is if you want to play Wirtz, McAllister or Gravenberch got to go out the side. And that for me is a very big issue because that midfield worked last year. Like, you can't say it doesn't work. And then also you got a lot of fixtures. You got all those cups. You got Champions League, Premier League. It's a lot of fixtures to not have a lot of rotational options, which means you're going to see a lot of these kids and a lot more of those points drop because they just don't have the squad to compete on all those fronts. Which is why, again, instead of other videos, I'm just so happy with the signings we made because you have so much rotational options. So, like, yeah, man, I think they've sold 12 players that have a part to play, and you've bought 9 players and 3 of them are goalies. So realistically, you've replaced 12 outfield players with six outfield players. And I think I just can't see a world in which Arne Slot would have been happy with all those scenarios. And I think he's going to be the scapegoat this year. And eventually, I think he'll pay the ultimate price because I just think they've had a very unbalanced window. But yeah, let me know what you lot think. Let me know if you think I'm chatting shit. If you think I'm making up excuses for him. I don't think so. But yeah, man, let me know your thoughts. I just think the blame should be looked at whoever is in charge of making those signings and get rid of those players. But yeah, boys, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Let me know what you guys think in the comments and all that good stuff. See you guys in the next video. Peace.